Today, we're diving into a really powerful economic philosophy, one that was born right in Africa. It basically says, hey, profit isn't the only goal. It's about building an entire continent with real purpose, one business at a time. And this is the story of Africapitalism.
You know, this African proverb, it just perfectly captures the spirit of what we're getting into. It's all about resilience, right? About hope. It's this unshakable belief that a brand new economic dawn is breaking across the continent. A dawn that, finally leaves those old broken models behind and moves toward a much brighter, self-determined future.
Okay, so to really get a handle on where Africa is headed, we've got to take a quick look back at where it's been. See, for way too long, the continent's economic story, well, it was written by outsiders. And that created a whole host of problems that make this new chapter so necessary.
So back in the colonial era, a lot of African economies were designed for pretty much one thing: extraction. I mean, think about it. Cocoa from Ghana, cotton from Malawi. The whole system was built to just pull raw materials out of Africa. And what that did, of course, is it completely stifled local manufacturing and made it almost impossible for African nations to build trade networks with each other. And this slide really gets to the heart of the matter. It's about two totally different ways of thinking about profit. The old model, that was all about rent-seeking, basically just fighting over who gets the biggest slice of a pie that's already there. But Africapitalism? Ooh, that's about wealth creation. It's about baking a whole new, much bigger pie, so there's more for everyone. And here's the crazy result of that old way of doing things. You get this paradox called jobless growth. It means, yeah, the economy might look like it's growing on paper, but if all you're doing is shipping out raw materials, you're not actually creating local jobs. I mean, just look at Nigeria. For 50 years, it's been a top crude oil exporter, but it still has to import most of its refined petroleum. It's a textbook example of jobless growth. And all of this frustration with the old model, it brings us to the solution. A new generation of African business leaders started looking at this and saying, there has to be a better way. They began to champion a whole different path forward, a philosophy for Africa by Africans. So, what is African capitalism at its core? Well, you can think of it as a dual mission. It says, yes, the private sector is the most powerful engine for change. But, and this is the key part, the goal goes way beyond just making money. The whole idea is to invest in a way that creates both economic prosperity and what we call social wealth. And it's important to note, this isn't some idea in a vacuum. It actually lines up perfectly with a global concept you might have heard of called shared value. The core idea, which this quote from Michael Porter nails, is that a company's success and social progress are deeply connected. So solving big social problems, that's not charity. It's actually one of the smartest business strategies you can have. All right, enough with the theory, right? Let's get into the real-world practice. Because this isn't just some concept in a textbook. It's actually being put into action right now by some truly visionary leaders who are proving day in and day out that it works. Let's look at Tony Elumelu, who's really the main champion of Africapitalism. So back in 1997, he takes over this bank that's basically failing. But his vision, it wasn't just about turning a profit. His big idea was to democratize banking. He wanted to bring financial services to millions of everyday Nigerians who had been completely left out of the system. And wow, this story just brilliantly shows how a social mission can fuel incredible business growth. And the impact? It was absolutely huge. I mean, by solving real, tangible problems for regular people, simple things like making it easy for a parent to send money to their kid at college, the bank didn't just grow, it created this immense social wealth. We're talking tens of thousands of skilled jobs, smoother trade between African nations, and a stronger economy overall. And the best part? It also delivered fantastic returns for its investors. And it's not just Tony Elumelu. Take another architect of this philosophy, Abdul Samad Rabiu. He started out by importing stuff like sugar and rice, but then he made this really crucial pivot. He decided, wait a minute, instead of importing these things, why don't we start producing them right here in Nigeria? And that shift from importing to manufacturing, that is a core principle of African capitalism. It's all about building local capacity and breaking that cycle of dependence. Okay, so this all sounds great, but you might be wondering, how can the next generation of entrepreneurs actually apply this? What's the blueprint, for building one of these impactful legacy businesses? It's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or maybe the billion-dollar question. Where do these massive, game-changing ideas come from?
Well, according to the philosophy of Africapitalism, the answer is actually hiding in plain sight. They come from solving Africa's biggest, most pressing problems. You see, every single challenge is a massive business opportunity just waiting to happen. You've got high electricity costs and power outages. Boom, that's a huge market for solar energy startups. Farmers losing a big chunk of their harvest. That's an opportunity for digital supply chains. You've got fruit rotting before it even gets to market. Well, that's exactly what led to the Ben fruit juice plant, which created a local market for farmers and solved a huge waste problem at the same time.
You know, there's a name for this approach. It's often called the triple bottom line. And it's simple, really. To build a business that truly lasts, a legacy business, you've got to succeed on 3 fronts. First, profit. It's got to be financially viable, of course. Second, people. It has to create real value for its employees and the community around it. And third, planet. It has to be sustainable and minimize harm to the environment. All 3 have to be. So when you kind of zoom out and put all these pieces together, you realize we're talking about something much bigger than just a business model. This is part of a huge continental shift in mindset. It's a whole new definition of what success even looks like.
Ultimately, what this all comes down to is building Africa's future from the inside out. That incredible entrepreneurial energy that's just bubbling up everywhere, that's the real engine driving this new continental vision. A vision of self-sufficiency, of widespread prosperity, and deep connection, all powered by Africa's own people.
And what's really cool is that this isn't just a grassroots thing. This vision is actually mirrored at the highest levels. We're talking about the big strategic plans for the whole continent, like the African Union's Agenda 2063. That's the long-term blueprint for the continent's development, and these ideas are baked right into it.
And we're not talking about vague ambitions here. Agenda 2063 sets some really concrete, hard targets. For example, one goal is for 90%, that's 90, of all agricultural exports to be processed locally in Africa. Just take a second and imagine the jobs, the wealth, the new industries that would create. It would mean finally capturing that value on the continent instead of just shipping it somewhere else.
And that, right there, is the heart of the new African dream. It completely redefines success. Wealth isn't the finish line anymore. It's a tool you use to create jobs, to empower communities, to build a lasting legacy. In this new vision, true prosperity, it's measured by the lives you change.
Which really just leaves us with one final powerful question to think about. Whether you're an entrepreneur, an investor, or maybe just someone who cares about the future, this new vision for Africa, it's both an opportunity and a challenge for every single one of us. So the question is, what part will you play in it? What legacy will you build?